All right, everyone. I see we have a few people still logging in, but let's go ahead and kick this thing off. Welcome to the 2023 Digital Marketing Guide for generating new patients like clockwork. We should be in and out of here in less than an hour today. And I really want to make this interactive, but still be sensitive to your time. So any questions you have, please put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get those questions answered. That is, for you with no problem. So let's jump right into it. Here's what we're going to cover today. The first thing that we're going to do is set clear goals and targets for 2023. We're going to cover the 3 fundamentals of marketing success. We're going to discuss how to optimize your website for conversion. We're going to look at the big picture of maximizing new patient flow using online methods. We're going to cover the latest trends that you need to focus on in 2023 so that you can develop a custom action plan for your practice. So let's move on to the next slide. A couple of housekeeping rules. If you don't mind, I know we're busy, but please turn off your cell phones, refrain from looking at those pop-ups from Facebook. Because this is an action-packed hour. So if you're a physician CEO, practice manager, head of marketing, and you're serious about getting better results in 2023, I really think you're going to find some excellent value in this session. So who is Eric Barbour and why should you listen to me? I'm the CEO of Refractive Surgery Marketing, proud Duke alum. I got my MBA from the Fuqua School of Business there. I'm the author of the book Refractive Surgery Marketing, which goes into detail on our model of how we help practices grow. And again, if you don't have a copy of that, it's on Amazon, but I'm feeling pretty generous. So if you, again, just shoot me an email or put it in the chat, we'll be happy to send a copy of that book out to you. But the bottom line is we specifically work with eye doctors just like you. This is what we do all day. We don't focus on plumbers, lawyers, and that type of thing. We specifically focus on eye doctors who perform refractive surgery. And we've developed a significant amount of expertise in doing that. So there's really 3 fundamentals to our approach to helping practices grow. We call it, our accelerated growth model. And here's kind of a visual of what that looks like. But the first thing is that you've got to be able to attract leads, not just any type of leads, but the right kind of leads, right? And this is where we find that most practices, they can find someone to help them do this, but then they kind of fall short, right? And there's 3 ways that you really want to attract leads, or 3 ways that are very effective. And that's paid ads, that's SEO, that's both appearing in the Google Maps and appearing in the organic search piece. And again, that's leveraging your database. Many of you already have existing clients or patients, and you should be talking to them about their refractive surgery options. And there's a couple of ways that we can automate and do that, right? So that's the first step, attract. The second piece, right? Again, we find people, they can figure out how to attract leads, or some can, right? But it's the conversion piece, which is the second phase of the model, that sometimes is a bit tricky. And there's really, a couple of ways that we convert, right? Leads, or a couple of levers that you need to pull to be good at converting leads. The first is you've got to have a website that converts, right? A lot of you have great websites. A lot of you have pretty websites, but does it convert visitors into leads and then ultimately in to patients? The second thing that you need to make sure that you get right is you need to make sure that your reputation is stellar, right? Think about how uneasy someone is or the concern they have when they're thinking about, their refractive surgery options, right? So you want to make sure that your reputation gives them comfort. No red flags are there whatsoever. The other piece of converting leads, or that'll help you convert more leads, is marketing automation. We'll dig a little deeper into that as we go throughout the presentation, but that's, one of the 3 levers for the convert piece. And then finally, it's optimizing the things that you do online, right? Everybody that invests in marketing, you want to get a return on that. So it's regularly looking at the return that you're getting, looking at things and being able to monitor your cost per lead. So you'll know that it costs you X amount of dollars to get a patient in your chair. And if that number's moving up or down, and then what return that you're getting. And from that data, you can really optimize, right? So again, we use this accelerated growth model and we apply it to the practices that we work with. But this is a good high level view of kind of what that looks like. And again, I'm a student of the game. I read a lot of self-development books, and this is a quote from the great Tony Robbins, right? And it's success leaves clues, right? If you go figure out what other successful people are doing, and you model it, there's no reason you won't be successful at all, right? And this is kind of the thinking that we hope you'll adopt, right? Because if we've found a proven system that works with other practices, there's no reason that if you employ the same strategies that it won't work for you. So that's kind of our driving philosophy and how we work with our clients. But, after talking to a lot of clients, around the country, here's what we found. Marketing is your practice is hard work, right? But why is that? What we found is when we talk to practices, we talk to physicians, we talk to practice managers, right? There's so many options out there that sometimes it can be difficult to figure out what to do, right? I mean, not only are there so many options, but things are changing all the time, right? The Google algorithm changes, Apple update, if you're familiar with that and how that affects, like online targeting and advertising, right? This can make it very unclear where to invest your budget. And, you think about all the different things that you could possibly be doing, right? Should you focus on social media, right? Should you, develop a new website, right? Should you put out more content in a blog? Should you do pay-per-click and do more Google ads? I mean, there are a million things that you can do, but, the question is what combination of those things that you can do. So we understand, it can be frustrating, right? And because you're making this major investment in your marketing, right? We understand, sometimes you don't have much to show for it. So, when you're working with a partner like Refractive Surgery Marketing, sometimes you can be let's say a little skeptical because, maybe your experience in the past is that you've invested a certain amount of money in your marketing and you haven't gotten the return that you've expected. But here's what's clear. If you don't have a clear plan of how you attack marketing your practice, you're going to fail, right? If you do not have a plan, you are going to fail. Two things can happen, right? You could overspend, right? No one wants to do that. No one wants to spend more money than they should on their practice. But here's what we find that happens more often than not. You could also underspend on your marketing and underperform, right? And we see that happen a lot of times because people have a growth target in mind and they underspend based on what they should be doing in order to hit that growth target. And we'll kind of talk about how to back into some of those numbers as we go through the presentation. Right, but here's the good news. Even with all of these pitfalls, problems, there's an opportunity out there, right? Because all of your competitors, right, may not be as savvy as you. And that opportunity is that when you have a clear plan in place, when you put together the right roadmap, the key performance indicators to follow, you can really set yourself up to attract new patients like clockwork. And when you're able to do that, and when you're able to build some repeatable processes in to your practice, right, you're going to generate maximum return on your investment, right? When you know that if I invest $1 and every time I invest that $1, I get $3 to $4 in return. It's almost like having a, let's call it a magical ATM machine if you will, right? You put money in and you know that you're going to get that money out, right? As a business owner, and keep in mind, yes, you're medical professionals, but you own a business, right? There's comfort when you know that, right? You can make better decisions. You can, sleep more comfortably at night, and you can know that you're on the right track, right? When you do have that, we kind of just talked about this, right? That ultimately, this is going to lead to success. You'll have maximum lead flow. You're going to be able to hit all your revenue targets. And that allows you to make better decision making, right? So you can know whether or not it's time to expand, it's time to get a new location. And it just gives you more comfort and more peace of mind. Right. So let's start off today by talking about how to get there, right? The first step, and we talked about this in the beginning, is setting clear goals for your practice. It's the beginning of the year. If you haven't set goals already, you should be doing that, right? And again, we talked about, I read a lot of self-help literature, a lot of, motivational things, I've read throughout my life. And this is one of the goals one of the comments that always stuck with me is that, this is from the great Brian Tracy, right? And he said, success is goals. All else is commentary, right? You need to have your goals written down. And to further illustrate that, when you don't have goals, you're kind of like this ship, right? This sailboat, right? You're out in the ocean. It's a beautiful picture, right? But you don't have any wind in your sails, right? The current's going to drive you somewhere, so you're going to end up somewhere, but you aren't able to harness the wind, so you don't know which direction you're going to go to. Whereas when you're able to capture the wind, right, when you have the wind in your sails, right, you can go in the direction that you want to go into, and that's the power of having goals, right? And to further illustrate that, there was a study done at Harvard. They interviewed the graduates of Harvard. Obviously this is a prestigious university, but they looked at the graduates in 1979 and they polled them. And the research showed that 84% had no specific goals, right? 13% actually had goals, but they didn't write those goals down, right? 3% of the graduates had clear written goals and a plan to accomplish them, right? And you can kind of see where this is going to, right? The 3% that had written goals, right, were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who didn't, right? But the 3% who had clear written goals were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% put together, right? Here's the key takeaway. Having goals is powerful. Having written goals that you can refer to is incredibly powerful. So we're going to kind of go through an exercise to help you get there, right? And we talked about having written goals and plans. So everybody kind of knows this. You want to have a 1-year goal, right? Even in your personal life, whether it's a weight loss goal, you want to have an annual goal, but then you need to break that down, right? You want to have quarterly goals, right? And then you break those quarterly goals down into monthly goals, and you can become even a little more granular, break those down in weekly goals, right? Here's what that's going to allow you to do. That's going to allow you to have checkpoints along the way so that you can know how you're doing, and then you can readjust as necessary, right? Having an annual goal is great, but if you set that in January and you don't revisit it again in December, you may be on target, you may not be on target. But if you break those down in smaller intervals, the power that you have at your hands is unbelievable. Right. So what are your 2023 goals, right? Again, we talked about having a revenue target for the year, right? You want to break that down monthly, and we're going to go through an example of this. You want to look at know your average transaction value. And we understand this is going to differ depending on what part of the country you're in. But, in the Market Scope 2020 report, they said on average, people were paying $26.32 per eye. We're going to make that number a little lower, but we kind of use that as a benchmark. And then you need to know how many procedures will that require to hit that monthly goal, right? And so if we use the average transaction value and our monthly target, we'll just divide the monthly target by the average transaction value. And that's going to give us, tell us where we need to go. And then we're going to take a second step, which we'll get into later. But let's see how this plays out, right? Let's say you want to do $1.5 million in revenue from your refractive surgery efforts, right? That breaks down to $125,000 a month, right? Again, we kind of backed into this number, the average transaction value based on that Market Scope 2020 report. And let's say that on average, you're charging $4,000 per procedure, right? How many procedures will that require, right? So if we take, 125,000 divided by 4,000, that comes out with 31.25 procedures per month, right? And you'll see that the 0.25 will kind of round out, but that's how you get that number. In order for you to hit $125,000 in revenue, which puts you on track for your $1.5 million goal, right? You need to do 31 procedures per month, right? So if we know our average conversion rate, and again, that's going to vary by practice, but let's use a number of 35%, meaning for every 3 leads, you convert one of them into a book procedure, right? So if we take our new patient target, we want 31.25 procedures per month. We divide that by 0.35, which is our conversion rate. That means on average, we need 89 leads per month, right? It's a mathematical formula that does not fail, right? And if you're starting to get 89 leads per month, here's the beauty of this, right? You will get better at converting leads into consultations into actual procedures, right? So 35% may be on the low end, right? But over time, you just get better because you have more times at bat. More times you're in front of a patient, more that you learn, the more that your speech pattern gets kind of set in stone, and the more that you'll learn of what works and what doesn't work, right? But that's kind of how you back into a number and how you put together a plan to say, how many leads per month do I need? I need 89 leads per month if I want to hit this goal, right? So if one month you're at, 100 leads versus one month you're at 70 leads, you'll know, if you're on track or not. But that's how you build consistency into your marketing plan, right? So what is your goal, right? Each of you, listening to the call, your practices are different, so you may have a different goal, but I want you to think about, right, what is it going to take for you using that methodology, using that formula? What is it going to take for you to hit your goals for 2023, right? That's going to be something for you to do in homework. So now that we understand, where we're going, right, what our goals are, right, in order to get there, you have to master the fundamentals of marketing, right? And there's 3 pieces of that. The first step is you need to know who your market is, right? Who are you marketing to, right? And again, this is going to differ by practice. If you're in New York City versus Atlanta, for example, where I am, versus say on the coast somewhere, your market may be a little different, right? But you need to know who your market is. The second step is knowing what is the message that you're going to share with that market, right? What are you going to talk to them about? What are you going to share with them about? What images, messages are you going to share with them that distinguish you from your competitors? And then the final step is your media, right? How are you going to share that message with your market, right? And let's kind of dig into each one of these individually. Right? The first step, your market, right? You need to identify who is your ideal patient. Again, this is going to differ, right? You may be in a market where there's a more active community or a more senior community or a more professional community or a combination of those things, but you need to identify who your ideal patient is. And you may have want to serve a certain type of patient, right? So you need to be able to determine, what are the things that they like? What do they look like, right? And if you can determine what that customer avatar or what that patient avatar is, right, you can then begin to hone in on the messages that you want to share with those new patient targets, right? And it's going to differ for everyone. There's going to be some things in common, right? But this is going to differ depending on which part of the country you're in, the type of practice you're in. But I encourage you to go through this exercise and determine, who your ideal patient is, right? And I'm going to take a quick sip of water while you're kind of thinking about that and looking at this chart. But let's move on. Right. Once you can determine who your ideal patient is, right, there's a quote that we use in the marketing community, and it's pretty simple, right? If you can see Joe Jones through Joe Jones' eyes, then you can sell what Joe Jones buys, right? And this is simply, if you understand what your customer avatar looks like and how they view themselves, then it makes it easier for you to walk in their shoes and sell to them, right? And again, you're a practice, you're a medical practitioner, but you're a business and you sell things to people, right? You get them to buy, right? So I want you to begin to start kind of thinking like that, right? Second piece, we've got our market. We know who we want to attract as our ideal patient, right? So the next step is, what's the message that we want to share with our ideal patients, right? And here's kind of a chart that you can use, and if anybody wants to share, please put it in the chat. But why should someone choose to do business with you versus your competitors, right? And we know all have large corporate competitors that are on the radio with discounts and this, that, and the other, and that's probably not who we want to be, right? So why should someone choose you versus choosing your competitors, right? And what benefits do you offer that maybe some other people don't offer, or maybe they offer them, but other patients don't know about them, but that's something that you could share, right? And you could own it and make yourself unique, right? So go through this exercise. Think about what it is that you want to share with, the types of patients that you want to target, right? And the final step is how you communicate this message with your ideal patient, right? And here's what I want you to think about. Your website is what we call your hub, right? It doesn't matter how a new patient lead finds you, right? They could come to you because you rank high in the organic search listings. They could come to you because you rank highly in the Google Map listings. You're doing a great job at SEO. They come to you from, you're doing a great job with Google Ads and PPC. Maybe you're a savant on social media, and your Instagram and Twitter game is incredible. Maybe you've been doing videos, or maybe even if someone that you've served before makes a referral to their best friend, guess what? They are still coming to your website to check you out. So you got to make sure that your website is built to convert, because it is your hub. Regardless of how a lead finds you or begins to become familiar with you, they're going to go to your website and check you out. So you want to make sure your website is built to convert, right? And I know this slide is kind of busy, but it kind of goes over our steps of determining whether your website is built to convert. So, a couple of things I'll go over high level, right? Is there a smiling doctor on there, or are there actual pictures of you and your staff, right? Do you allow customers to book directly on your website? Do you have a chat widget on your website so that people can chat directly with you? Do you have a click to call button on your website where people can call you directly from their mobile phone? Because let's face it, that's what most people are on these days. They're on some type of mobile device. So can they call your practice directly by the click of a button versus actually typing in the phone number? I'll let you, look through these and determine whether or not you're doing all these. But those are, a couple of things from a high level. And if you'd like, if you email me directly, or again, just put it in the chat, we've built a specific worksheet that allows you to go through your website and check off one by one whether or not your website is built to convert. Happy to send this out to you. Again, just leave your email in the chat or give us a call directly, and we'll send this out to you. All right. So based on that, once you get that information, compare your site. Do you have all those conversion elements in place, or are there some things that are missing that are easy to put on your website? And so we really encourage you to go through this exercise, because some of these are easy fixes that you can have in place so that you can communicate effectively with your target market. All right. So we've kind of mastered the fundamentals of marketing, right? Now let's discuss the biggest challenge that we find facing most practices today. And the biggest challenge that we see out there is unconverted leads. And we touched on this earlier when we talked about, kind of our accelerated growth model. And here's where we find where people tend to become dissatisfied with their marketing efforts, right? They may be doing a good job of attracting leads, but they just aren't turning into patients sitting in your chair, right? So here's the problem, right? 90% of web forms fail to convert. So what's a web form? They fill out something on your website saying, hey, my name is Eric Barbour, and then they don't, or maybe they don't put all the correct information, or maybe they get busy and leave, or maybe they are on, one of the medical sites, Health Grades, or whatever the case may be. But 90% of web forms don't convert, and 50 to 60% of inbound leads leave unconverted. That means half of the people hitting your website, they're gone, right? You don't even have a chance of converting them, right? It's almost, you see this picture of a leaky bucket, right? You spend so much time and energy trying to fill this bucket up, but if you don't even have a good quality chance of converting these leads into actual patients, right, you're just losing money, right? So that's the biggest challenge that we see out there. And here's why, right? Leads that are not followed up with in 5 minutes go cold. Think about that for a second. Someone fills out a form Let's say they're doing it in the evening when they get home from work, right? There's no one at your front desk calling that person in the middle of the evening, right? So, or if they're doing it during the day while you guys are at work, or you're busy serving your existing patients, someone fills out a form and no one follows up with them, right? If they're not followed up with within 5 minutes, they go cold, right? Compounding that is the average person must be followed up with 5 to 7 times before booking. Now, notice I didn't say 5 to 7 attempts, right? Because the person at your front desk that follows up with your new patient lead, they may make an attempt at calling them, but it's a good chance that they're not going to reach them, right? That's not a follow-up. They need to be touched 5 to 7 times where there's actually a connection, where the person actually reads the email that you're sending them, or they read the text message that you're sending them, right? If you email them as a follow-up, but they don't ever read that email, that's not really a follow-up. They need to be followed up with 5 to 7 times before booking. And also, right, it's clear. I mean, think about your behavior. Consumers prefer to interact via text message versus phone or email anyway, right? We're in a new world, right? Again, most people have mobile devices, right? Most people read text messages, phone calls get ignored, and emails get ignored. So, you got all of these things working against you, right? But the way to solve for that is leveraging market automation to follow up with all those web forms within the first minute of someone submitting something, right? You should be able to send out an automated phone call, an automated email, automated text message that immediately follows up with them, no matter how busy you are, no matter whether or not someone calls in sick or not. You need to be following up with those new patient leads if they fill out a web form, and marketing automation is the way that you do it. And then you need to automate the process, right? You want to automate the process so no matter what, each new patient lead that you're able to attract, you follow up with them, 5 to 7 times within a reasonable time frame. And when you have the right systems in place, it becomes pretty easy to do this, and you don't even have to think about it. It happens automatically behind the scenes, right? And we use a tool that helps our clients do that. We call it Flywheel MD. But happy to discuss that. We'll do a different webinar on that. But you need to have some type of system in place rather than just relying on humans at the front desk to make a call to all the leads that you're able to generate using digital marketing. Right. And here's kind of a graphic example of the tool we use. But suffice it to say, it's a back end of if-then statements that says that, certain actions are triggered based on the type of lead that comes in, whether it's by Google, Facebook, maybe it's an Instagram lead, maybe it's, you're doing things on TikTok, any number of ways, right? There's a series of actions that need to happen behind the scene automatically that are triggered once that lead enters your funnel, right? And again, we'll do a different webinar on this on another date. And send out an invite for that. But suffice it to say, you can't be successful without a back end automatically built into your system, into your processes. And, again, we find that, some people are pretty savvy at building these things themselves and installing it in their practice. But we find that most people simply want something that works. And here's a model of something that works. Right. And here's what can happen. Here's the power of doing that, right? And here's kind of a simplistic example, but I want to show you, from a revenue perspective, how this could impact your practice, right? Let's assume you have 100 leads, right, per month, and you convert at 30% of the leads, right? You don't have, automated follow-up. You're calling the leads, and you average 30% of those leads that you convert. It means if you got 100 leads, you have 30 procedures per month, 30 book surgeries, right? Again, we used a number of $4,000 per procedure, right? That's going to yield us $120,000 in revenue per month. That's pretty good, right? But let's say we do nothing else. We're not investing in any other lead generating mechanisms. We're just trying to get better at converting the leads we already have. So we have that same 100 leads, right? This time we've got marketing automation installed, and we're able to move the needle from 30%, a 30% conversion rate, to a 40% conversion rate. It means, again, we have that same 100 leads. this time we convert 40% of those leads. We end up with 40 booked surgeries for the month. Again, at our average fee of $4,000, we now have generated $160,000. We've got the same, number of leads, but we've generated a third more in business, right? That's how you generate our ROI, right? And when you look at, what this requires to install in your practice, it becomes a no-brainer. This is something that you absolutely have to do and make sure that you've got installed in your practice, right? At the end of the day, it makes every lead that you generate more valuable, right? Because if you have invested a specific amount of money to generate that 100 leads, but now you're getting $160,000 in return versus $120,000, each one of those leads becomes more valuable, right? That's how you achieve, your revenue targets. That's how you're able to grow at the pace that you want to grow. That's how you're able to have, enough free cash flow to do the types of things you want. Maybe that's pay for college. Maybe that's expanding your practice in different locations. But again, this becomes a no-brainer, and it's something that you absolutely have to do in your practice, right? The next step is knowing your key performance indicators, the things that the metrics that you need to monitor month to month or week to week, really. We give out a monthly report to our clients. Actually, we have a monthly review, but you have access to anytime you want to log in, you can look at your key performance indicators. And we do that by giving you a dashboard, but you should have your own dashboard of the metrics that matter, right? You want to know your average cost per lead. You want to know how many leads are coming in. You want to know your conversion rate, right? And you don't want to have to monkey around doing this on your own. You should have kind of something built in that at a glance, you or the person that you've tasked with monitoring this can kind of do a pulse check. How are we doing, right? And it's easy to do that once you have your key performance indicators built in to an easy to view dashboard. And that's something that all of you should have in your practice. Right. All right. So let's talk about some key trends for 2023, some things that we learned in 2022 and things that you need to be mindful of as we kind of continue throughout the year. One of the big things that we found, or the big things that continues to develop, is you must develop omnipresence and authority in your market, right? We are all aware of the large corporate competitors that seem to have endless amounts of money to spend on advertising, radio, print ads, this, that, and the other, right? So for you to be successful, you need to develop omnipresence. You need to be everywhere, right? You want to be the authority. When someone thinks about refractive surgery, you want them to think of you. You want your practice to be top of mind, so that even if there's someone that hasn't been a patient of yours, they know about you. And if someone is saying, hey, I'm thinking about, having LASIK surgery, I'm tired of wearing glasses, right? And you want someone to say, well, have you thought about XYZ practice, right? That's developing omnipresence and authority in your market. And the way that you do that is by having an all-in perspective with your marketing, right? And I know you get cold calls from, someone telling you, hey, we can do Google ads for you, some entity, maybe domestic or international, saying, hey, listen, we can help you with your SEO. Heck, I get those kind of, emails myself for our agency. But you have to develop an all-in perspective if you want to be successful, meaning you have to be doing all of these things. You can't just do PPC. You can't just do SEO. You can't just put up things on Instagram and other social media platforms. You need to pull all of these levers, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to dominate all the areas of Google, right? So that's Google ads. You want to appear in Google ads. You want to appear at the top of Google Maps. You want to appear at the top of the organic listings, so that no matter where someone is looking, or when they're thinking about their refractive surgery options, you want them to find you, right? That's developing omnipresence and authority in your market. And again, we touched on this. You want to make sure you've got marketing automation installed. And then the final piece is content is king, right? Video is the preferred content of choice these days, right? You definitely need to blog, right? But if you think about it, TikTok, what is that? Video. If you go to YouTube, what are you first presented with now? You're presented with YouTube Shorts, right? Little small, easy to consume video snippets. So video is important. So you want to make sure you're doing those types of things. And it's pretty easy to do those things, right? All of us have a very powerful video recorder in our pocket, and that's our mobile phones, right? We're making videos of our kids. We're making videos of, birthday parties and those types of things. It's pretty easy to make easy to consume content using our video. Having your receptionist, for an example, whoever does your take-in, discussing the process, right? Having one of your physicians discussing the efficacy of LASIK. Those are easy to do videos, right, that Google loves, right? And that'll help you rank better. But those are the types of things, and that's what we're seeing more and more in 2023. So those are the key levers you want to make sure that you're pulling throughout the year. Okay, we're kind of at the end of the presentation. Hopefully I didn't go through that too quickly. Here's what we've covered, right? We've talked about developing clear goals and targets for 2023. We talked about the fundamentals of marketing. We looked at our market, our message, our media. We've talked about how to optimize your website for conversion. Again, we've put together a fantastic checklist. If you'd like that checklist, just leave your name in the chat or send us an email. We're happy to send that out to you. We talked about the importance of having your own KPI tracking dashboard in place. So that at a glance, you can kind of measure your performance. How are we doing? How are we doing in terms of conversion, in terms of attracting leads, in terms of our revenue? We just discussed the key trends that you should focus on in 2023. And all this is going to roll up and allow you to develop your own individualized custom plan for 2023. So what are your three takeaways from today? What are the top three initiatives that you need to implement to hit your 2023 goals? Now, see, we have a typo here. We're not talking about 2022 anymore. We're talking about 2023. But what are the three things that we've discussed today that you need to do in order to hit your goals? So that's what I want to leave you with, right? And if you need some help implementing this in your practice, if this makes sense, let's implement this in your practice, right? We'd love to help you achieve the targets and the goals that you have outlined for yourself, or help you determine what goals and targets that you should have kind of based on where you are and some of our experience and knowledge in helping other practices do this. So if you'd like our help, real simple, just go to our website, refractivesurgerymarketing.com/schedule. Easy to fill out form. Someone from our team will reach out to you, book a time for you, or you can book a time actually that's convenient for your schedule. Pretty non-formal. We'll kind of discuss, some of our thinking based on some information that we gather from you, and we'll see if there's a path forward. But at any rate, we hope you've enjoyed this webinar. If you have any questions whatsoever, if you need help, please reach out to us. We love doing these types of educational webinars. So until the next one, look forward to speaking with you soon. Anything we can help you with, please let us know. Thanks a lot.